Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
While you're in sunny Florida, be sure to visit
WARlando! Into a world of epic adventure.
Hello and welcome to WARlando. This is Adam.
And I'm Nicholas.
Here we are, a special episode tonight, talking about the new core rules for Age of Sigmar 3. Nicholas, you excited?
I am excited. I was I don't know. I wasn't feeling like a naysayer, you know, like everything I was hearing was sounding really good. And I'm currently in a TTS tournament, and I was just kind of like, am I gonna want to finish out am I going to want to finish this tournament out, because it's all like 2.0 rules.
Yeah.
And now that this has been out, and I've just been glued, to all the posts and all the things and all the updates, and now the core rules, I'm digging this rule set. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to 2.0. I don't want to go back to my, to this tournament that I'm doing on TTS and finish it. I'm just like, oh, why don't we all just play 3.0 now? I mean, I don't know it very well, and I know 2.0 pretty good, so my game would be sloppy. But I'm just so into this new rule set that I'm just like, I'm done with the old rule set. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean. It's been fun to read. I think, I think it's going to be faster, snappier games, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fun new stuff that they added here.
Yeah.
Do you want to scroll through? We'll scroll through the book and talk about the changes we noticed.
Yeah, kind of give our 2 cents worth.
Yeah.
So what do you got first on the list?
Well, the first thing in the player's code, which they put out for the first time, I want to say it was in the last GHB. It was the first time they did the player's code. And one small thing that people complained about that they did fix was where it used to say that you need to do a handshake. Now it just says, make a respectful gesture to your opponent before and after the game, such as offering a handshake, wishing them good luck, etc. So they
a COVID friendly,
and I guess there's some people that just do not like to touch other people and want to be expected to shake hands if there's actually written down on the page that you must shake someone's hand.
Right. That can kind of get your game off to a rough start. And roll dice that, you know what I mean? You're just like all of a sudden already at odds.
Yeah, that's a bad start. Like some people will share your dice, and other people won't let you touch their dice. Some people I guess just don't want to shake hands. They don't want to touch someone else, and that's totally cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And we all don't have to be touchy-feely. We don't all have to be like, we can be friendly, but we don't have to be friends,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have to be friends. We have to be friends. But we don't have to be like, like with our opponents, we don't have to be friends. We can just be friendly and enjoy the game together.
Yeah, exactly. So that was in the player's code. I didn't read the rest of the player's code. I just wanted to, because I knew I had heard about this change, and that were people happy about it.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Make the respectful gesture to your opponent before and after the game. So it's kind of like if you've ever played like Dark Souls or something like that, where whenever anybody enters the game, it's like they always do like a gesture, like a bow or like a wave or like whatever, and it's just like
before you fight,
you feel like you have to do something.
That's funny.
And if you don't do it, then it's like a faux pas. It's like, what wait, what? And then like when you're talking to somebody and you just start the conversation where you're like cutting the person off a little bit, and then you stop, and then they start, and then you start it again, and then things just get really awkward for like the first few moments. That's kind of like what it is. If you don't start off with a respectful gesture, you'll kind of catch each other up a little bit.
Yeah, and it kind of resets things, or like it sets things up. Like
Right.
you're saying. Yeah.
Um,
that was the change to the player's code. There's on the next page. There's a new term that they're using here next to 1.1: factions, battle tomes, and battle packs. They haven't used that term battle packs before.
Yeah.
There's more description way in the back of the core rules. They talk more about battle packs, but it's not something that I've seen anywhere before.
Yeah. They do have all these bolded items, which are like, focus on this. These are the words that you want to kind of, notice. Don't get hung up on the, like, did it say the, or, is it, or did it say it, or did it say like an or a or whatever, like focus on these words in bold.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know what you're saying. I've been caught up on times where it was a subtle difference like that, and it's made a difference in games.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will come down to that in some. I think I've had the friendly argument about, like, the Oxford comma or something like that. It's like, well, if the comma was here, then it would mean this, and if the comma was here, then it would mean that, and now it means two different. It could mean something completely different.
With these kinds of games, the language is very important, and I'm sure there'll be an FAQ and errata that comes out in the next month or so to clear up stuff. But I think they did a great job. I think they've even got on the left hand side of the page there, they've got kind of an FAQ right there.
Yeah, kind of like its own designer's commentary right there for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think they probably play tested the heck out of this. It looks like it's going to play fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, the battle packs, I think they're going to be releasing battle packs. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of variety of battle packs are going to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know this has been a big contest. This word here, factions, or this part here about factions, and how you must pick the factions you wish to include in your army. Each faction has its own battle tome, which contains the war scrolls, pitched battle profiles, and allegiance abilities for that faction. And a lot of people are recognizing that some of their combinations were based on keywords and not what was in the pitched battle profile or the battle tome or something like that. And they're worried that they can't take some Slaves to Darkness with some of the other chaos, because in those chaos specific books they don't necessarily list Chaos Marauders or Archaon or something like that in the pitched battle profile.
Oh wow.
And it was just based on keywords that they were allowed to be in there. So
do they don't mention allies there. I think they mentioned allies a couple times.
Allies later, but those weren't allies. Those were always a part of the allegiance because of something written somewhere. I'm not a chaos player. We don't have Mark here tonight. Unfortunately, one I'm not going to be able to answer. But I think really what it comes down to is there's going to be a lot until we get the FAQ that's just going to be like, what's it say in your battle, in your battle tome? Like, what we all just have to go back and like read the specific wording and compare it to this kind of stuff.
What's the Caradron Overlord's not temple, Skyport that lets you bring it to Warden?
Right. So I've got it here. Let me see. Yeah, so for the KO in Brock Thring, it says 1 in 4 units in your army can be a Duarden unit. That does not have the card-drawn Overlord's keyword. Those units gain the Brock Thring keyword. They cannot be the army general and do not count towards the number of battle line units in the army. So I think there's definite intention that, you know, those are allowed to be included in your army. They do gain the Brock Thring keyword, and it says in the beginning, in the allegiance, I think the difference is it says in the allegiance that Brock Thring, that you choose a skyport with the keyword, and that's what you build your army on.
Yeah.
And so because it says that they now gain the Brock Thring allegiance keyword, now they're allowed in my army. And Cities does the same thing. Like 1 in 4 Stormcasts now gain the Cities of Sigmar allegiance ability, or the Tempest Eye allegiance ability, right? Or Hallowheart, or, you know, Hammerhall, whatever it may be. So I think those books may have just been a little older, and that's why they don't have it listed like that. But I don't have an example in front of me. Unfortunately, I don't have any Chaos battle tomes.
Not yet.
Not yet. So, but yeah. So
it'll be interesting to see as that gets more clarity.
Yeah, for sure.
The next big change here is the unit coherency.
Right. Yep. 1.3.3. I like how they have all these like, you know, like sections to it.
Yeah,
So you can easily reference like where you're talking about it. Because if you remember, like back, even when it was like 4-page rules that they had, I could never remember exactly where that one thing was. You know what I mean? It would be like, oh, they referenced cover saves here. And it's like, oh, okay, so where was cover saves? Was it in the terrain section? Was it in the shooting section? Was it in the damage? You know what I mean? And then it's like, even though it's 4 pages, I felt like I read it twice just to find the one word.
Right. Well, they did include an index in this one too.
Yeah.
Alphabetical index, which is great.
Yeah. So it definitely stepped it up in a lot of areas. You know,
yeah.
What, 6-7 years later? Here we are.
I know from what was it, 2015 when AOS first came out?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 4-page rule book you could download. Now it's a 45-page rule book that's got some real depth and nuance.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a huge one. Unit coherency. As you can see in the picture, like 5 models or less, you know, normal 1 inch away. But if you're more than 5, all of a sudden you have to adhere to being close to 2 other models.
Yeah, within 1 inch of 2 other models. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, in this example below, you can see that like in order for all of them to be within 2, you kind of have to do the zigzag, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of do the zigzag formation, everybody's in. And when you pile in, you know, if they're spaced out in the front and they're a bigger base, those guys can kind of pinch in the middle. Like we all know, right? When you try to get those guys from the second row in there, you got to space out a little bit. But I think it's gonna definitely keep from maximizing as many people in combat like before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly if you've got a bigger size base.
Right. And I think more on that later with the pile in. We'll get there with the pile in stuff, but I think the pile in changed a little bit to help get more people into combat. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a shift here where it's like, yeah, we lost a little bit here, but we're going to get a little bit with how freeing the pile in is now that you just pile into the closest unit, not to the closest model.
Yeah.
because that was always restricting, right? Like if you were to
Mhm.
kind of like come out in that sort of spearhead formation where you've got just a couple guys or one guy at the top and they just happen to get that 9-inch charge or whatever you needed, and that one guy gets in and then 3 inches from there, and it's like, oh, you know, but now this guy's in my way, and then he can't shift enough because whatever, and it's like, nope, just push them all in 3 inches. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just closer to the unit.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get a little bit more people in combat because of that.
There was a lot of like really fiddly situations that, like you're saying, that I've run into in the past where I'm stuck between two models.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm equidistant from two different models, so I can't move at all because one way or the other I'm moving away from a model. Yeah, that you're talking about fixes that.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, and like, so right here, with these guys too, what I've seen with the formation is you can probably sacrifice maybe on those guys in the, like those, a couple of guys in the second row right in the middle. Maybe they don't have to be there. Maybe you can kind of spread out a little bit and say, like, I don't expect to lose 7 of the 10 guys. I only expect to lose maybe like I'll have a move in there somewhere to try and get people back into coherency. I could see people sacrificing on those middle guys, maybe like right here, right? Like these two, and having those on the outside and allowing you to kind of spread out a little bit, knowing that when you take them off, you're going to be taking them off from the outsides over here and the outsides over here. And then really, you only come into danger with that if you only have 3 guys left, right? But then at that point, you've got less than 5, or you 5 or less, and that's not a problem. So
yeah, definitely
so
a chance to
they're not maximizing here with how much you could do, right? Because these guys in the back could go onto the outside, and you could spread out wider if you wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. With a 1-inch base, then it's not big of a problem as it would be if you're on a 32 millimeter base.
Right,
trying to get those guys in.
The only reason it comes into play is with those guys on the outside. They're not within 2, right? And then you kind of keep taking them off, right, one by one until you're down to 5. But I think you just set up in a formation where you don't have to worry about the middle 5, right? They're always going to be closest to 2 if you're in a line. It's just once they come down from 10 to 5, then you're okay.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's times when, like you said, you're going to be losing people anyway.
Right.
So spread out, pile in around the outside, and know you're just going to be pulling those guys off either way.
Yeah. You want me to keep moving?
Yeah, go to the command points.
Okay.
That's the next big thing. Page 3.
So normal stuff here. Rerolls, can't reroll, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, nothing new there.
Right, nothing new. The one thing here is contradictory effects. That's one thing that people are starting to kind of get a little weirded about. And I don't think this is going to come into as much play as we think. It'll come in a little bit, I think, but I don't think it'll be as contradictory as people are assuming right off the bat.
And one of the things they talk about in the book is always strikes first and always strikes last. And they call that one out in particular later on.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of contradictory effects that I don't see it coming up very often.
Yeah. And some people are like, well, but what happened if I roll 6s and it says this and then, and it's like, okay, well, is it modified or is it unmodified? Because those are 2 different triggers. And if you're just talking about rolls or re-rolls, like I was listening to Warhammer Weekly, and the guy Vince, he like broke it down, and the rule here for just anybody listening, not watching, is like contradictory effects. When the effects of 2 or more abilities are contradictory, the last one that was applied takes precedence. And so that's kind of saying if 2 things are conflicting, the last one that was applied takes effect over the other. And and so I think we're going to find there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for some of the sequencing of events.
Mm-hmm.
But once everybody kind of gets that learning curve of the sequence of events, I think then it's going to be clear how like non-contradictory like something they're going to be. But I think we are going to find those moments where it's like, can't do that because if you do, I'm just going to take precedence and it's going to be a waste. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd be interested to see when and where that actually comes up.
I think there's going to be a lot of times where we, like with all the new changes, where we're going to have to decide how we double up just in case something doesn't go our way. Because there's a lot of things that say like, you can't, like you can only use one command ability, but if you get issued 2 command abilities, then you should be able to decide which one you choose to use, right?
Yeah.
So, and things like that, and or the +1s and the -1s, you can't go beyond that. Like you could maybe still apply effects, but once things kind of get shifted around, it's like, well, maybe I'll hold on to giving myself another +1, because what if I get hit with a -1? I need that extra +1 to still be as effective. You know what I mean? Because it's not I give myself a +1 and I can never get a +1 again. It's just in the end, you can't get more than a +1. So if you come in and you give me a -1 and I give myself a +1, I'm back to 0. I can still then give myself a +1 to be at +1 to hit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. So say I have the ability to give you a -1 to hit. You have the ability to give yourself a +1 to hit. You're saying those don't cancel each other out.
No, they do. Now I'm back to 0. I would want to maybe hold on to the ability to give myself the command ability to give me +1 to hit now, right?
Well, I think later on in the rules, if I understand them correctly, you can't double up your +1s.
You can't double up you can't double up the same +1 effects, right?
I think you can't double up +1s. So I don't know if that would apply, because you've already given yourself a +1, even though my -1 negated it.
Right. And I think it might be, it comes out in the end, what's the total? Your unit can't be more than +1 to hit or +1 to wound. So let's look at that here in a little bit. And I think we'll see.
I think that does come up later.
Yeah. Did I skip over what you wanted to see? No.
No, not till page 7.
Oh, page 7. Oh, okay, right here. Command points.
Yeah. Starting command points is just up a little bit above there. Just above the 5.0. Priority role, starting command points.
4.1.1.
Yep. Yeah, so after determining who will take which turn, the player who... I'm trying to read it on your screen. I can't read it on your screen. After determining who will take the first turn, the player who will take the first turn receives 1 command point. And the player who will take the second turn receives 2 command points. That's something that didn't happen before. Not only did it not happen before, not only did you not get 1, now you get 2 if you're going second. Instead of just getting 1, you didn't even get 1 before. It's talking about the first round of the game.
Right. And that's after determining who will take which turn. So that's even before the turn technically starts. You divide up who gets the command points.
Yeah.
And so that happens right at the beginning, right? All of a sudden the game just starts and I'm going second and I get 2 command points.
Right. So if you had a battalion or spent the points to get an extra command point, you could be starting off the game with 3, maybe 4 command points.
Right. Yeah. And then another thing that comes up a little later too down here is you receive command points at the start of the battle round after that priority is determined, right? In addition, if your general is on the battlefield at the start of the hero phase, you receive 1 command point.
The hero phase, not your
the
hero phase.
Not the hero phase. So that means if you have a general on the board, top of turn 1, if you're going second, you still get an extra command point because it's the hero phase, and you have your general on the battlefield.
So if you weather round 1, you get to the next hero phase. You could get another command point then too. You could be sitting on a lot of command points.
Yeah, and then for the person who went first, you can think like, well, as long as my general survives, come hero phase, I'm going to get another command point from my opponent. So bottom of round 1, you're going to get another command point going into the opponent's turn.
I want to double check because there's something they say on page 17. I can jump ahead. You don't have to scroll ahead to it. But talking about command points, at the end of the battle round, all command points that players have remaining are lost, and a new battle round begins.
Yeah.
So you've only got them for the battle round.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to get a bunch, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Better use them.
Yeah, you got to use them. And I think that's what their intent with this rule system. They give you so many opportunities to use command points. They definitely want to see a swift back and forth of different things triggering and activating.
Right. Yeah.
Another thing under using command abilities, your unit champions now have the ability to use command points.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how they get unit champions into everybody's armies.
Right. Yeah, true. Because, I can't think of a unit off the top of my head that doesn't have some kind of unit champion. What about trolls?
The trolls don't. Yeah, I was going to say the trolls don't.
Yeah.
So they don't. But are they going to allow are they going to give you a troll? Like, are they going to come out and just say, hey, every unit can choose 1 model to be their unit champion? A bunch of units say that like you can have a boss, right?
Yeah.
Like some sort
which
of.
I think would wonder if that's. Are they going to start throwing that keyword around?
Possibly.
Unit champion, because it's not bolded on this page looking at it.
Yeah, you're right. So it's not necessarily a keyword.
Yeah.
So maybe
I wonder if they're going to clear that up.
So yeah, like, are they going to give us a war scroll update to say, hey, for this war scroll, this is the unit champion. For this war scroll, this is the unit champion. Or is it just going to be a blanket, like,
if you don't know, we're not going to tell you.
or they'll just say like choose one. If your unit doesn't have a champion, choose 1 model to become the champion. I don't know. Because general isn't highlighted here either, and general isn't a keyword you'll find on a war scroll.
Yeah, general is something you select when you're building your army.
Right. So maybe they'll have you select unit champions when you build your army.
Interesting. Yeah, like there's a virtual button to push to say, yes, I have a unit champion in this army.
Yeah. And I could see that being on like the War Scroll Builder or the app, right? Mm-hmm. Like select if, toggle if you've added your unit champion or something. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, or maybe it's an upgrade. Maybe it'll be a blanket upgrade, 5 points.
Yeah, 5 points for a unit champion.
But then it's just like even solidifying the transition back to Warhammer Fantasy, right? Because that used to be an upgrade. You used to pay like 5 or 10 points to have a unit champion.
Yeah, unit champion, a banner, a musician. Yep. So much of this is like, this is Warhammer Fantasy 9.0. Yeah. They're bringing back so many. There's lots of other things that come up that they're bringing back from that edition.
I wonder if that's why they added 5s on the end of a lot of the newer model points. Like a lot of the newer like Soulblight Gravelords end in 5s.
That's interesting. Because I can't think of a lot of units that do end in 5. And I can't think of a time where I've had 5 points left over. Like I've never
No.
been at 1995 points. It's always
It's never
2000,
been.
1990. Yeah, never been a 5.
Yeah,
That's
they've
really
always
good.
ended in zeros.
There's probably going to be some exciting things coming out in this next Journal's Handbook and the core book too, to
Yeah.
clarify a lot of the stuff that's just been hinted at here. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
I would expect, just to go back to like picking a unit champion, I would
Mhm.
expect some WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get for models on the table. Most of the battle line stuff you get have a model that's expected to be a unit champion. But
Right.
I wonder if, like, you've got something like the trolls and you're saying I paid for a unit champion upgrade, you've got to indicate somehow which one's the unit champion. That model should be just
Yeah.
a tiny bit different so we can keep track and there's no
Clearly identified, and I don't
Yeah.
switch it like partway through the game. Like,
oh no.
he's on this side, not that side.
Yeah.
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 Agreed.
Champions totems also get to issue command points. That's fun too.
Yeah. So totems, like, that's a thing, a reason that's a keyword on the War Scroll now, right?
Yeah, it's been there forever. That hasn't really been a factor. I
So
don't
how
know.
does that work with like your Daughters of Cain like statue guy?
I guess the statue guy, because you can take him on his own, he can
Yeah.
issue command points now.
What's
I don't know.
what's his name?
The Idol of Cain, I believe it's called.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You can take him on his own, but he's not awake. He can't move or attack until a prayer wakes him up, or you get to the third battle round. Until then, he's just immobile. But I don't know if there's anything on there that says you can't issue command points with it.
Right. So you just got this like isn't he just like out like this or something? Or-
Yeah, his arm, he's like a scarecrow, except he's holding a heart and a sword.
something like this, maybe.
No, he's got sword way outstretched, heart way outstretched.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So he's
Yeah.
definitely just like no battle shock. No battle shock. Stay in, guys. But he's like doing it without moving his lips.
Yeah, oil
He's really
can.
good. He's really good at that.
Yeah,
Another
command ability
interesting thing is they specify that a model issues a command and a friendly unit receives the command. And then later on they talk about the unit using the command.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they just specify here that when you do use a command ability, right, when you're using the command ability, you must spend a command point. And then you pick a friendly model to issue the command, and you pick a friendly unit to receive the command. So I wonder, and they have it in bold. So
Yeah,
I think later it talks about specifying that you can only like issue one command per model or per unit, and you can only use a command per unit or like receive a command, right?
right.
Here it is. A model cannot issue more than one command in the same phase, and a unit cannot receive more than one command.
Well,
in
that's
the
too
same
bad.
phase.
It doesn't give you much opportunity to stack stuff.
No, not at all.
Your secret tech is kind of limited.
Right.
Still, there's more people that can issue commands,
Correct.
but yeah, only one person. If your unit receives one command, they can't receive additional commands. That's too bad.
Right. Yeah. So, and what I heard was like what you'll notice later is the command abilities don't have ranges on them, like the ones in our battle tomes do, because the ranges are fixed here, right? 18 inches from the general.
Yeah.
Totem. So it sounds like maybe that's like a design thing going forward, is they're gonna, just rely on maybe this more. If you don't see that there's a distance to it.
Yeah. It's not something
being
already.
issued by somebody else, they have to be within range.
Yeah.
Which we're kind of used to. I mean,
Yeah. Already, most of the stuff 2.0.
But we get a
Had to be
buff
within
already.
12 or
It was
18.
only 6 inches before,
Oh yeah.
and now it's 12. So that's good. So it's a smaller board, but it's like longer command ability.
I'm looking forward to getting some games in and trying these things out.
Yeah. Yeah, I can talk about how I know it all along, but once I get into the game, I'm going to be like, oh, dang it, I forgot I'm supposed to be able to do that. And can I go back and do that real quick? I'm going to be doing that for probably the first 2 months. Can I go do that real quick?
Let me do that over again. So hero phase, before the heroic action stuff, this is the first time they mentioned that priests can banish invocations and they can dispel endless spells. This is a new thing, which is really cool. Makes priests way more valuable than they have been. So I'm sure the points on the priests that are out there, those points are going to go way up.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are going to be more valuable. Do you have any priests available in your armies?
Daughters of Cain have the Hag Queens and the Slaughter Queens. They're all priests. So they can do prayers and invocations.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the Iron Jaws, it's the War Chanter. War Chanter is a priest.
Okay. Yeah. I think for the cities, the Rune Lord is a priest. So that's going to be nice. He's already really important. It just makes him like doubly important.
Mm-hmm.
And makes the other Duarden heroes even more less important. Because
what about the KO don't have any priests?
No, they don't have any wizards and they don't have any priests. So if you do Brock Thring, then you can maybe bring one in, like a Rune Lord or like a Battlesmith, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a totem. He's one of the two.
Who is it in the KO that can unbind spells?
So the Navigator can unbind, but he's not a priest. He's not a keyword. He doesn't have the keyword priest.
I wonder if they might give him an FAQ to let him do invocations.
Yeah, because I think in their lore, they don't believe in gods anymore.
Yeah.
And so they didn't go religious or magic-y,
Yeah.
They harness the magic in the spell in a bottle. But I think that's just because, they caught it.
They're capturing it. Yeah.
Yeah, they captured it. And then there's the Skyport that allows all of your heroes to unbind like a wizard would unbind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and now some people are saying that Skyport's going to be even more important because you can unbind like a wizard, and then all your heroes can do these heroic actions, and it's just going to be a lot of fun stuff for them to be able to do.
It's a lot of stuff going on. So, like you said, you mentioned the heroic actions. These are just free.
Yeah, you just decide you just can do one, right? You can carry out one heroic action with one friendly hero.
Yeah. So if you've got 4 heroes, you can do one of each of these heroic actions.
Okay.
Because it's not limited to your army. You can only do one heroic action per turn, I don't think.
Yeah.
Has to happen at the start of the hero phase. You can carry out one heroic action with one friendly hero. So am I reading that wrong? Is it saying you can only do one heroic action with one hero? Or is it one hero can do one heroic action? And if you've got 4 heroes, you can do 4 heroic actions.
Yeah.
How do you interpret the way it's written? Because I can see both sides.
It sounds to me like you can carry out one with one. So it would say, like, if it was all your heroes, it would say you can carry out one heroic action from the table below with all friendly heroes. Because right now it feels like you can carry out one heroic action with one hero.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I would argue once you've done one, I'd be like,
you're done.
Well, now you're doing a second one.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think it's pretty interesting because it kind of gives heroes that for those armies that don't have a hero phase, like KO, unless your ships are hurt, you're not really doing anything. You're not really trying to fix your ships. You know, you're not casting any spells except for that first time with the spell in a bottle. You know, you're just, you know, your chemist is given a buff to a unit close by, and if you have a navigator, you're
flying.
You're trying to stop the flyers from flying, right? That one I love to cast on Marathi, the Ether Storm. Make her half move, D3 mortal wounds.
You're right. The KO needed some help.
They do. They need a lot of help.
They need a lot of help. So they're way down in the meta right now. The KO needs some help.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just talking about that's all the army can do with the hero phase. Whereas now it's like, okay, now there's a little bit extra you can do, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that they did it for free when they're delving out command points all of a sudden.
Right. Exactly. It is an interesting. Here you go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see some stuff later on where they'll say, like, if you know, like certain abilities now that they can build into units now are maybe heroic actions or something like that. Maybe that's like a new thing we might see in other units coming out.
Yeah, instead of doing a heroic action from the core rules, you can do this heroic action, something along those lines.
Yeah, or like battle tone specific heroic actions.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun. So if you scroll down a little bit more on this page, you get to the command ability Rally. So this is a new one.
Yeah. Which is kind of like summoning.
It is summoning. It is absolutely summoning. You can, from any unit, it doesn't have to be undead or demons or anything. Any unit that's missing models, you can use this command ability to try and bring back slain models if you roll a 6.
Right. And it's a dice for each slain model.
Yeah.
So you take that 30 block of Iron Drakes that you just spent all turn trying to dwindle down. You get them down to 15. All right, here I go. Can I bring some back? You know, just in time to be able to shoot again because it's in your hero phase.
Yeah. I'm glad it's in the hero phase. Not at after battle shock or something like that, because that's when you're most of the time that's when you're contesting objectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does kind of make you wait until the next turn. It's like you did the work, you took them off the objective, you deserve the point.
Yeah, but I might just come right back.
Right.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. On the 6 up, you're bringing back. And I think it's interesting they say slain models. Yeah, at the shout of command, injured warriors stagger back to their feet and prepare to fight once more. I like that wording.
Yeah. So is there a difference? Like, it'll be interesting to note if we can remember this later on for the battle shock. Are they considered slain?
I think they're considered slain. Yeah.
Okay. So this is pretty much anybody that's been removed.
Yeah, whether they've been killed or battle shocked.
Right.
Yeah,
so you don't have to sit there and like hold to the side like these guys have been slain, but these guys have been like, you know,
battle shocked,
punished or something. some new word they come up with.
There's a really odd thing here. The normal move, retreat, run. As far as I can tell, none of this has changed for the movement phase. But there's something weird that they do on the next page. Redeploy is new.
Well, what one real quick is you can't run while retreating.
I was looking at that. It doesn't. Did it say that before?
I think before you could retreat was counted as a normal move.
Instead of a different normal move, retreat, run.
Yeah. 2.0 was like 10 years ago, it feels like. So I don't know.
I know. I just remember doing it. I don't remember it specifically saying you could or couldn't.
Yeah. So I think you could run and and now
it definitely specifically says what's on the war scroll.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's pretty clear.
So you get at the double, right?
Yeah.
Go 6. It says instead 6 is added to the unit's move characteristic. Okay.
Instead of making it. Yeah.
Right. And then redeploy. So this is
Yes.
It's kind of like taking a little bit of the good stuff that like the Orc war clans get,
Yeah.
where at the end of a phase you get to move D6. Now it's like kind of like before, like a little bit of summoning when you never got summoning. Now it's like a little bit of that extra movement when you were always just never moving.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, you've got this battle that's like all of a sudden the board's smaller. We really haven't changed any of the ranges of shooting and all that kind of stuff. Like people are still moving and charging and all that kind of, and they're going to get into combat really fast.
Yeah. Well, this is
nice.
Redeploy.
Yeah.
This is definitely great for a shooting army. You've got someone who's just moved into charge range, and you can spend this command ability redeploy to move back a few inches.
Right.
Make that charge a little longer.
Right. Granted, you could roll a 1.
You could.
But
you got lots of command points.
When you're like, I need 6. I just need 6, Yeah. And who knows, maybe it pushes you back. So there's like some fun gameplay stuff here. It's like if somebody too hastily uses it, they could run off an objective.
Yeah.
Or if they're kind of buffing against an objective and they're going to kind of do a feint, right? Like, oh, here I am. You charge me. Oh, here I go. Then maybe they can try to jump back onto an objective, make it even harder for you. I don't know. Who knows? We may not see the right tactics until we play a few games.
Until someone gets really fancy with it. Yeah,
right. We'll have that kind of 2-month period where like nobody really knows what they're doing yet.
Yeah.
And then it'll feel like really kind of like even. And then all of a sudden, like after a couple months, it like all the really like fancy players will just be like way up here again. You know what I mean? and I'll still be like, oh shoot, can I go back and do that again?
So read that part where it says unit coherency.
Okay. How do you want me to read it?
In your fancy voice.
Oh, okay. After you have moved all of the models in a unit, it must be coherent. See 1.3.3. If it is impossible for a unit to be coherent after it has moved, you cannot move that unit.
So is a pile-in a move?
So like, are you able to kind of pile in out of coherency and just know that you're going to lose those guys later, but it's okay because you're going to get the extra attacks in?
Yeah. Does this unit coherency rule apply to pile-ins?
Because
in the game we played last week, you were taking models off, creating incoherency,
right?
Which is different,
right?
But if I were to
talked about that, and we thought that was okay.
Yeah, I still think that's okay.
And you could take them out of the middle, and then just at the end,
you're going to lose half of them,
right? Yeah. But I knew I was going to lose them all anyway.
Yeah,
that wasn't necessarily moving them.
Right. This is different. A unit coherency. Yeah, I don't know because if I'm thinking I'm going to lose everything in the unit anyway,
Just
Um,
spread them out as far as you can.
Yeah, if I've got a unit of 30 witch elves I want to spread, like wrap all the way around some big monster. Can I do that move if I'm going to break the 2-to-1 coherency?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me just pop down real quick to the pile-in.
There it is.
You can move a model making a pile-in move. So move.
Yeah, when you make a pile-in move, it's not highlighted, but it uses the word twice.
Right.
3 times.
I would say that you'd have to keep them in coherency.
I would think so.
On what I read here.
Yeah.
Just because they used the word move.
Yeah. So here's an odd one. I don't know why they felt they needed to do it. But section 9.2, remaining stationary.
Okay.
I don't know why they felt the need to call that out, but they put the keyword in there, stationary. I don't know where it gets used now, but maybe that's something that's coming in the future that you can say, well, this unit remains stationary, so they get X benefit.
Yeah, that could be like something in the future. I know there's units that say if you haven't moved, like you can fire twice or something like that.
Yeah, but that doesn't say stationary. It doesn't have the stationary keyword.
Right. So maybe they're just trying to say, like, instead of saying if you have not moved, like trying to take away any sort of discrepancy, it's just saying if the model remains stationary or something.
I bet we're going to see a new faction. It's going to come up somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe there's new battle plans that say, you know, if you're on an objective and you have remained stationary, that you get an extra victory point, something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
So, lookout surge changed just slightly. I think it's down on the next page.
Real quick, remember that? I just remember it because of this picture. I thought this was a weird picture.
Yeah.
Because they talk about, tracing a path.
Yeah.
Making a move. And the model is going right through the terrain piece.
And this image, yeah.
And so they drew the path, they do it, and I was waiting to read somewhere that you measure from the closest point of the model and 1 millimeter wide, you trace it, and if he can do it, he can move around stuff or whatever. He doesn't have to worry about doing a little wee-woo,
Yeah, because if you were going to just slide the base, you couldn't make that move that they make in the picture.
Correct. And then I think they actually address that down below somewhere, that when you're moving across terrain or around terrain, you've got to measure around it.
Yeah.
Or go over it. If any part of the model, the base touches the terrain, you have to I don't know. It's somewhere in here.
Yeah, that seems like a mistake.
It was just a bad example. I just felt it was a bad example.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Right there as an example.
That's funny.
But what were you going to say? Hopefully
no, I didn't lose my train of thought. I didn't notice anything else. Jumping down from terrain features, that's a new expression.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep.
You used to measure up and measure down. They didn't specifically say jumping down off terrain features.
And I don't know if it necessarily gives you anything extra. Right.
Yeah, it's not like there's a jumping keyword or something like that. If it said something like you only have to measure half the distance down because you're jumping, it doesn't say anything like that.
It does, yeah. Which I was expecting when, you're right. When I started reading that, I was like, jumping down from terrain features. All right, here we go. Do I just get to jump and not get penalized for it? And they were like, no, you measure and then you move. And it's like, oh, okay.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing. So maybe we'll see it later on somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the flying part is interesting because I think this is slightly different. Before, remember from 2.0 10 years ago, like if you flew, you would just move the horizontal distance.
Yeah.
And which is correct unless you land on a terrain feature. Here, you have to you measure in the example here, like they say, you measure from the ground up to the terrain feature.
Does it say that?
And it says, in addition, when a model that can fly starts or finishes a move on a terrain feature, instead of tracing its move across the battlefield, you can trace it through the air as shown in the diagram below. So does that mean it doesn't look like they traced it through the air?
Right.
Or
right. Like you'd actually you'd string the measuring tape up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So you wouldn't just measure to the base of the terrain feature and then put the model on top of the terrain feature. You would measure the measuring tape up to where they're going to land.
Right. It says instead of tracing its move across the battlefield, right, where it goes 3 inches and then up 3 inches and then over 2 inches. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, right. It's through the air. But in they say, as shown in the diagram below, it looks like in the diagram they're stretching it from the ground up.
Yeah.
I would think it would be from horizontally over.
Yeah, I think that's the way we've played it before.
Right, and only because right before that it says you can ignore other models and terrain features when you trace the path of its move across the battlefield. So that means if I've got like a 2-foot terrain feature and I move 5 inches,
you can just ignore it.
You can just ignore it if you make it all the way across.
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you want to land on the terrain feature, you trace it through the air.
Yeah.
You got to move 24 inches in order to get to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, you would just go through it. But what if you wanted to be on the terrain feature?
Because it looks cool.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird that you can go through it, but you can't land on it.
Yeah, that seems odd. It's an odd change. Or maybe it was like that this whole time.
You could land on it. But if it's too tall, then you might not be able to land on it.
It's interesting.
Anyway.
So, shooting phase, the change to the lookout, sir. I think otherwise shooting attacks, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think shooting attacks stay pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
But lookout, sir changed, and it's just one thing that you can't look at, sir, a hero that's a wounds characteristic of 10 or more.
Right. So it's no longer the monster keyword.
Yeah.
It's whether you're 10
wound count. And that comes up a lot. They use that 10 characteristic of 10 or more wounds. That comes up a lot throughout the rest of the rules where they want to separate those.
Right. And that's good news for you, right?
No. No, because I played Daughters of Cain and the Cauldron of Blood.
I know.
I was getting the lookouts there all the time, which was great. Now you can't get it anymore.
Yeah. No. Trying to always decide whether it was worth, as KO, do I move in and do I shoot all your witches or do I shoot your cauldron so you don't get the buffs? And then it's always like, well, it's -1. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get -1. Now it's like, maybe.
Hey, might as well go for the cauldron.
Hey,
and we'll look out, sir.
It's a little bada bing, bada boom. Too much more.
Charge, I think, stayed the same.
Yep.
Charge phase command abilities. There's a new one there that I'm sure you like too.
Dun, dun, dun. I know. This is just a good page for me, honestly.
Unleash hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously it's the old stand and shoot rule from 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, but they call it Unleash Hell instead of stand and shoot.
Yeah. It sounds a little better, I think.
Yeah, it's nice. Unleash Hell.
Unleash Hell.
Yeah, you can stand and shoot.
So this is interesting too, because it's not necessarily the charged unit.
Yeah.
It's a unit that's within 9 inches of the unit that's charged. So you could have kind of like a sort of like a defensive buffer where you got like a line of guys and then a unit behind them.
Yeah, you could have
that Unleash Hell.
You have your battle line spearmen or whatever out front.
Yep.
Have your crossbows right behind them.
Yeah.
And so when your spearmen get charged, you can unleash hell, shoot at everybody that's coming near them.
Right. But there's that trick where as long as there isn't another unit within 3 inches, enemy unit within 3 inches.
Yeah.
Which is key because now you're going to be like, well, before I was just going to charge this model in there or this unit, but now you may not want to get unleashed upon.
Yeah.
And so you'll charge with the not so good unit. And all you got to do is just get one model like right there. Pink.
Yeah. One model within 3.
And it's not models that are outside of 3. It's the unit. So all you got to do is get a model in there to tag another one of your models within 3, and that whole unit can't shoot. So, which is key too. Like you don't want to be super spread out, because if you're super spread out, then you could possibly be closer to lots of other enemy models. It's going to force your shooting group to stay close.
Mm-hmm.
And or else I'll just charge you down here, right? Or whatever. So
it's a great ability, and it's really fun to see it coming back into the game after so many years.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I was just thinking about it with my Hurricanum. Its shooting attack, although it doesn't follow the to hit to wound rolls, it's still a missile weapon. So it still has a shooting profile. Which in the rule here for Unleash Hell, you must subtract 1 from hit rolls for its attacks, and it can only target the unit that made the charge move. Okay. But the Hurricanum doesn't roll to hit. It just shoots. It says instead of rolling to hit and to wound on a 2-up, or you reference the value in the bracket, and if it's a 2, it starts at a 2-up. So in a 2-up, you're hitting and doing D3 mortal wounds on each one. So that one's nice. So I think I'm going to actually enjoy unleashing hell from the Hurricanum.
So combat phase, fight, and let's talk about this for just a second. The fight or pass option here.
Okay.
Have you ever passed?
By force, I've had to pass.
How so?
Like if I don't have anybody in the last one, I think if I didn't have anybody to fight with, I pass.
Yeah.
Like once I'm done fighting with my model or my units, I pass.
So the only time this would really come up is if you don't have anybody to fight with,
or if you when I was reading this, I was reading it for some interesting specifics, because I think in 2.0 there was something about whether if you passed, like you wouldn't be able to fight anymore that round. So
I can see if you passed and then you passed to me I pile in, but when I pile in, I
Exactly.
I
So
drag some of
now-
your guys in.
If I pass, because I don't have anybody to fight with, okay, I'm going to fight with these guys. They pile in, and now all of a sudden you're within 3 inches. I can now say, oh, now I choose to fight with these guys. But it does give you the ability to say, no, I pass after I pass, and then the combat's over. Because you may be like, I don't want to pile in and bring those guys in. There's no way I can do that. So I'm going to pass. So that would be the reason to pass.
Yeah. It says if you're in combat range, you have to fight.
You have to fight, but you don't have to pile in.
Yeah.
Because when you go read pile in, it says you can move a model, making a pile in move up to 3. So I can just choose to not pile in, and then if my guys aren't in range, they can't attack. But if they are in range, they have to attack, which is interesting.
It is.
I don't know if maybe that was in the last one, but it seemed like very intentional here. Like,
yes. I think it was in the last one, but I don't think it was clear. There were a couple games where it came up where, particularly since I've got the dogs that came with the bladed bucklers, I want you to pile in and try to hit me, so I've got a chance to do a mortal wound. But yeah, you don't have to pile in.
Right. Like if a prime example would be like, oh, I'm in range already, just based on the charge. Because I had to charge in and move everybody the max distance or however far it was to get onto the objective.
Yeah.
Then it's like, if I fight, I might lose somebody. And then I don't have the right, like I don't have the objective anymore. So like there would be those times where it's like I don't want to fight because I'm already up a model. If I lose a model, I'm done,
Yeah.
But now it's like, nope. Or maybe, and that you're right, it was a debate before. Maybe it was clear, but it was you're right, there were some times that it was debated.
Yeah.
And now it feels very intentional. Like,
yeah, very clear. So you already mentioned the change to the pile in. It doesn't have to be the closest model, it's the closest unit.
Yep.
And this is where they go into. I think it's a great change. I'm a fan of it. Yeah, I'm absolutely a fan. I think it still gives you the freedom to pull some shenanigans, and when you do pile in, around the closest unit, so you can fight the unit behind it. I think it gives you more opportunity to do those kind of movement shenanigans, which I like trying to do, trying to sneak in and around to get to those, get through the chaff to get to the wheat.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I found there were some shenanigans, right, where you like lock two of your models onto the opponents, and it's like, well, now he's equidistant from each one because they're both touching.
Yeah.
And you can't move away from either one because they're both the closest.
Yeah.
Right? And there's that lock move. And then it's like, can't do it. And then it's like, oh, but I wanted to move him so I could get another guy in there,
Yeah.
It's like, nope. Now you can just shift to get all your guys in. I want to get all my trogs in. You know what I mean? I don't want anybody to lock my trogs and then not allow my guys to swing.
Yeah.
So,
there's this whole section next on strike first and strike last effects, where they get very specific about. Like, I didn't think strike first and strike last needed this much clarification, but apparently it did.
Yeah.
Attacking. This got really interesting for me. I don't think this was around before. When attacking, making your to hit rolls, 1s always fail and 6s always succeed. That I think is a change. I don't think we've ever had that before. Which if I had a hero with a 2-up to hit, and even if I gave him a +1 to hit, I roll that 1 on the die, the 1 automatically fails. After rerolls, and before modifiers, the 1s automatically fail.
Right.
Same with 6s automatically hitting.
Yeah. So 6s auto hits. You can't stack and make me not be able to hit.
Yeah.
6s always hit. Yeah.
Yeah. So to hit and to wound rolls, I think that's interesting. That's a change, as far as I know. That's a change to previous editions.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I quite remember.
Yeah, I skipped all the stuff about combined picking attacks. This whole page, I skipped because I don't think there's anything new here. I don't think it's anything until you get to the hit roll on the next page.
Yeah, I think this was all the same as well.
Yeah.
Kind of that typical combine your attacks with the same profile.
Yeah.
Try to speed it up. Don't be like that guy with the unit of brutes that has a different profile for each. For each
I have such a love-hate relationship with the brutes because I love how they look. I love their aesthetic, but I just find them they're not tough enough for how they look, and they've got such a weird weapon profile. I feel like with 5 models, I feel like it takes a really long time to get through all their attacks.
Yeah, they're like the poster child of that army.
Yeah,
and yet they never survive longer than the Ardboys or the Gorgruntas or whatever.
Yeah, I'd much rather have 3 Gorgruntas than 5 brutes, which is a shame. So yeah, here's where I was talking about on what was that page 15 that we're up to now.
Right. So this is where it mentions that if the roll equals or beats the attacking weapons to hit characteristic, yep, it scores a hit. You must make a wound roll. If not, the attack fails. The sequence ends. An unmodified hit roll of 1 always fails. An unmodified hit roll of 6 always hits. A hit roll cannot be modified by more than +1 or -1. So I think this is where I was watching the Warhammer Weekly stream earlier, and the guy did this, Vince Venturella or something. He did this breakdown that was like, this is what the attack sequence is. And he had like 5 steps to it. It was like, you roll, then you you do your roll, you do your re-roll, you account for unmodified, this or that, you apply modifiers, and then you have your modified roll in the end. And then that's when, so, and he did this whole thing, and it was like, it was about something else, but I was like, I'm torn because he makes a good point about these different attack sequences. He was talking about triggers, where it says later about like triggers, you can't have like whenever 2 things are triggered at the same time, right? Like you decide which one prevails or whatever. And I was like, okay, so he's broken it down to all these different triggers. And I'm like, why wasn't that in the book?
Yeah, if you need to explain it, why not? Why
like
didn't
if
you
it's
explain
so
it?
detailed, right? Like that was a very specific explanation for something that's not here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, is that supposed to be assumed? Because that was pretty specific for that's a pretty high assumption for a very specific explanation.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are saying a hit roll cannot be modified by more than +1 or -1. So if I come in with a +1 to hit and you come in with a -1 to hit on me,
yeah, This is
if
what I
I
was talking
apply
about before.
modifiers, I'm back to 0. So the hit roll is technically not been modified by more than +1 or -1. It's at 0. So then would I at that moment, be able to have another modifier take over as my +1?
I'm not sure if there's even an opportunity to do that. I'm sure there's some shenanigans out there on different war scrolls and different command abilities.
Well, yeah. So it would be like you have a war scroll ability that says, +1 to hit. Because I've got that on my Grots, for example. And it's like, okay, here's a +1 to hit for having like 15 or more models or 10 or more models or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then if I use the command ability down below, all out attack, that gives me another added 1 to hit.
Yeah.
So if I know I'm going to be at a -1 because maybe I'm shooting at
Nurgle or something.
Nurgle, right? And I'm at -1 to hit. Well, that negates my +1 to hit on the War Scroll. Now I give them the command ability to give me another +1. So now I'm net +1 to hit. That's the argument.
I'm leaning the other direction because you're modifying it with a +1. So it cannot be modified more than a +1. I'm modifying it a -1.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back to 0.
Right.
But we both modified it already.
Yeah. Like, is it a right? Because there's nothing here that says, is there something here? Because I don't know. I'm asking this because I've only read this rule set once, but is there something here that says, a +1 and a -1 negate each other?
Yeah. They do, right? Yeah. Can you then add in this other command ability to add a +1 back?
Right.
Are they trying to say no? You can never give them a +2.
I think what they're saying here is you can't have. I'm kind of indifferent. I could go either way because either way to me is either way for everyone.
Yeah.
And so it just needs to be understood because I wouldn't want to play one game in a tournament where it's like, no modifiers. And then you play another game in the tournament and it's like, oh, no, you can do it. Right. And then it's like, oh, that would have gotten me something over here or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it has to be the same for me. To me, it has to be the same.
Playing other games, I think it makes sense to me that it should play the way you're describing it.
Mm.
But I can't tell from the rules if that's what their expectation is.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me that you should be able to, all right, I gave them a +1. You gave them a -1. So we're back to 0. So I want to give it another +1 again. Because I have the option to do that. Right. That makes sense to me that there could be that back and forth exchange.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're right. I think it needs some clarification.
Because it for sure down here where it says like I know for sure like on one of the Grot's War Scrolls it says you can if you've got 30 or more models you get a +2 or it adds 2.
Yeah.
So I guess there would be the question. So one, no, it's downgraded to 1, and then I'm going my 1 against your -1, and it's at a 0, or is it I've got my +2 and you've got your -1, and now I'm at a +1?
I think it would depend on the activation order, but I think that +2 is just going away. It's not going to be an option.
I think here this is where it says like this is an exception to the principle that abilities take precedent over core rules, right? Because there's always this like if it says it in the battle tome or whatever, or on the word,
it takes preference.
It takes precedence. Here it's saying
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It would be nice to get clarity on that. +1, -1. Is that net or is that like gross, or net, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the command abilities changed here, right? All
Did
out
they?
attack. Yeah, it's add 1. It's not reroll 1. It used to be reroll 1s. Now
Oh,
it's
okay.
add
Add
1.
1 to hit rolls.
Yep. And I think they did that. Like, if you would have asked me in 2.0, I would have said I would have rathered a +1 to hit, right?
Yeah.
But here, they're making it. It seems like, so when I saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. But I think what it hurts is like, when people would get like 2 up, 2 up, like 2 up to hit, re-rolling 1s, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. Now it's just 2 up, and you can't go beyond that. So, there used to be a lot of re-roll 1s to hit because of the command ability, and now you can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and because I think it just helps. It helps keep that, like, that negative play experience, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
It really, what I think these rules are doing is they're trying to control the negative play experience, because it's no fun going up against a block of Iron Drakes that shoot twice. They get 2 up to hit, re-roll 1s. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
My 20 Iron Drakes now just did 40 damage. Or, like they hit 40 times, right?
Yeah.
And then they would get +1 to wound, and so they would be at 2 up to wound, and then the Longbeards make them re-roll 1s to wound. So it's 2 up, re-rolling 1s on both, right? And it's just like, 20, whatever, 40 shots turns into 40 damage.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good call.
And then +1 to save, which, again, to me, the same thing. It's really nice. I would have wanted that. I think for like my boats and all that kind of stuff, like people trying to come in and shoot my boats down for KO. Yeah, give me +1 to save.
Yeah.
I want that. But what this does is, like, some of those really tanky heroes that get like to 2 up save.
Yeah.
Like, or like Idneth Deepkin, like they would stack all these +1s to save, and then they would give them the reroll 1s to save command ability.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be 2 up save reroll 1s. They never die. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
They never die. So this is like, nope, you got to stop. 1s always fail, and then they're just trying to make it harder to reroll those 1s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I hope it plays. I hope everybody likes the smoother gameplay that you're describing.
Yeah. Sorry, I got on a rant there.
No, it's all good. Next page, 16. Look at that top right there. Wards,
baby.
They're bringing back 8th edition.
No more like, do I call it after save? Do I call it feel no pain? Do I call it a...
Yeah. No, it's a ward save. We're back to calling it a ward save again.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome that they brought that back. Even the layout, like the design of this book, reminds me of 8th edition. Like the coloring of 8th edition. I wonder if GW has just hired enough people now that used to play 8th edition, and they've like spies, they've like infested Games Workshop, and now they're recreating 8th edition, bringing it back from the dead.
Right. They've like infiltrated, and they're the 8th edition fanboys bringing it back.
Yep. All right, the next one I wanted to talk about was page 17, when they talk about the command points going away.
Okay.
Which we already discussed. At the end of the battle round, any command points you haven't spent go away. On page 18, talking about cover.
So real quick, right before we move on from here, this is where I wanted to look. So up here, it said slain.
Yeah.
Once the number of wounds allocated to a model equals its wound characteristics, the model is slain.
Yeah.
But then you come down here to battle shock, and it says flee. If a slain model is returned to its unit in the same turn that it is slain, it still counts as having been slain in the battle round for the purposes of battle shock tests, which is key. This is a good clarification, I think. If you do all that work and then they bring all those models back, like there should still be a penalty.
That's going to make it tough to keep track of, I think.
It is. And it's going to also make it tough to track if this isn't counted as being slain. When you then go to the next turn and say how many were slain from the unit.
You have to have two separate piles.
So,
You
like,
know
is
what I
it
mean?
possible that you can wipe out most of a unit with battle shock, for example, and then you can't get them back because they weren't slain, they fled?
And what about the coherency rule then? You break your unit out of coherency, you lose all those models for coherency. Were they slain or did they flee? Because it happens in the battle shock phase.
Right. It says here, if a friendly unit is not coherent, you must remove models in the unit from play one at a time until it's coherent. Until
doesn't
it
say-
is coherent.
Doesn't say flee or slain.
Right. And up here, it says, yeah, it is slain. You cannot allocate any more wounds to it. A slain model is removed from play. So is there an argument to be had? A slain model is removed from play. So this reference is 1.2.2. Do you have the rules in front of you? Back at 1.2.
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Because maybe it says every model that has been removed from play is considered slain or something.
You said it's 1.2.2?
Yeah. What does 1.2.2 say?
1.2 says models.
Is there a 0.2?
No.
Oh no, there's like secret rules. We don't know.
Here we go. Rally.
Oh.
Yeah, it says slain. Roll 1 dice for each slain model from that unit. For each 6, you can return 1 slain model to that unit.
So unfortunately, we're gonna have to keep track of battle shock deaths versus like
And coherency tests.
yeah, because coherency isn't. They didn't flee. They
Nope,
just
when they weren't slain, they were just removed.
right.
So if I've got a battle where I've got my 30 block of infantry, I lose 10 slain,
Uh-huh.
and then I lose another odd number battle shock, and I break coherency, and then I have to take some more models off. Where do I put the models that didn't flee and weren't slain?
Right.
Do I put them with the slain, or do I put them with the ones that fled?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't say that here. It doesn't say which way.
That's where you do the my bad.
My bad.
Whoops. Oh, I don't remember which is which. I don't. They're all in one pile now. Whoops. Whoopsie.
Yeah. Ups the daisy. Well, let me roll 6s for all those.
Yeah. Right. All right. Yeah. So that seems a little messy right there.
It's definitely messy. I think that was a mistake putting flee and not slain.
Yeah. Maybe something else references flee, but I'd like to see something that says any model removed from play is considered slain.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there's somewhere else with the reserve units. I think they say if they fail to come on the board
By
at
round
the start
four.
by round 4, the count is slain.
Right.
I wonder if there's scenarios where victory points come from slain and not flee. If you're like for a minor victory, you're tied. You're tied on victory points. You're trying to see who killed the most models to get the minor victory. Do you count the battle shock? Because they weren't slain, they fled. So you don't get to count the battle shock.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Like you didn't kill them.
You didn't kill them. They just ran away.
They just ran away.
Well, let's press on.
Yeah. That's good to note.
Yeah, another damn it, we're pulling this thing apart. It felt so tight. Now it's starting to unravel.
I still feel like it's pretty solid so far.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. But we're just finding these little questions. But if we found these questions,
how did they not find them in the first couple game tests? You know,
I think you develop like a common understanding. Like obviously that's what it meant. Yeah, but that's not what it said, fellas.
Right.
Page 18, I think was talking about that 18. Yeah. Just talking about cover.
Yep.
I think somewhere around here they reference again the 10 wound models.
Right. A unit that has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more that has made a charge move in the same turn does not receive the benefit.
I thought, does it say
or that has made a charge move in the same turn does not receive the benefit of being in cover. So Cauldron can't be in cover anymore.
Nope, no cover for the Cauldron. None of this. Pulling my army apart. I'm gonna sell my daughters and go buy a KO book.
Yeah, right.
See how you like it.
I'm like all excited because I'm like bringing my KO over, and then I like open the door, and Adam's just finishing the touches of like painting his KO army, and I'm like, no.
This book talking about the unit coherency, so you can't do the daisy chain anymore. I don't get the Lookout Sir anymore for the Cauldron. They changed the rules. Daughters of Cain book so that they changed the Daughters of Cain book to make it say wholly within, not just within like it used to. Like everything I was getting away with before has just been taken away. No, you can't play with these toys anymore. It's really I'm in kind of a hobby freeze right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going to happen in the core book and the General's Handbook. I don't want to paint something that's never going to go on the table. Unless, I'll paint stuff just for me, but I don't want to, like with the Daughters of Cain, I don't want to paint anything until I know I'm going to play with it.
Right.
It's a frustrating time for that reason.
But maybe you did name all the bad things, but some of the good things for you.
Such as?
Well, your shooters, those stalkers, right?
Yeah.
And now they can stand, right? They can unleash hell. And potentially they could be getting a unit champion, right? Which I think we're all going to get the option of unit champion.
I know you're trying to brighten it.
And now you're going to be able to teleport them, and they'll be able to give themselves a command point without a hero in range, because unit champions can give their own unit a command.
So you get bringing me up. You're bringing me up, but now I'm going to bring it back down again. New points are coming,
and and we'll see another Daughters of Cain reduction, right?
I think with all these changes, particularly the changes to the Cauldron, I would love to see them come down. But rumors are saying that Marathi's prices are going up.
Yeah, because all of a sudden she's more powerful, right? Because of all
she's
the
a hero and a monster.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. The monster stuff. Yeah.
It's I'm on lockdown.
Hobby lockdown.
Total hobby lockdown.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's funny. The word hobby lockdown. It's your situation isn't funny.
But I'm sure there's other people in hobby lockdown too. That
Yeah.
just I don't know what to paint this week because I don't know what I'm going to be playing with in 2 weeks.
Yeah, agreed. And so that's why I'm working on my gloom spike kits, because it's like the only way they can go is up.
The Gloom Spite are tough.
So
Not only have 1 or 2 tricks up their sleeves, but those tricks punch.
yeah, I think it'll be. Yeah, I think there's some more possibilities for them now.
Yeah.
I think like the endless spells being able to move like in every turn, that's going to be nice. Only being controlled by you, like they've got some tricksy endless spells, so that's going to be nice to be able to have those out there.
Mm-hmm.
The snake for Daughters of Cain being able to move twice.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's gonna be rough.
Yeah, the new endless spell stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah. Did we not get to that yet?
We have not yet. It's
okay.
Further down the whole magic stuff. So cover, then terrain, defensible terrain, large and very large terrain.
Yep.
Again, they talk about, I think they mentioned in garrisons, 10 wound models can't go into a garrison.
Yeah, so defensible terrain can be garrisoned. Large can take they count as like 2 terrain pieces.
Yeah.
And then very large count as like 4 terrain pieces, I think.
Yeah.
And then they talk about garrison down here.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to garrison, real quick, the Wildwood. And I was trying to look at this, where it says visibility between 2 models is blocked if a straight line 1 millimeter wide drawn between the closest points of the 2 models passes across more than 3 inches of a Wildwood terrain feature. So does that mean that if your model is right at the edge of the Wildwood, but not off the Wildwood, they're wholly within, but they're on the edge, they're still visible? Because like, look at this picture here.
Yeah.
There's no way that these guys are 3 inches. Like if I had a model down here shooting, they're less than 3 inches off the edge, right? Like the line has to go 3 inches deep for them to be invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That to me is a rough change. Because it used to be before you just had to I think just be on it.
Yeah.
For Wildwood specifically. But or maybe not. Maybe it was just a cover save. But I thought I remember playing against Sylvaneth and I wasn't able to see anybody that was in the trees, as long as they were within an inch of the tree.
And that might have been a Sylvaneth special rule.
Yeah, so maybe that still stomps on it. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that's just something to note.
With the garrisons, I was trying to find with the garrison.
Yeah.
The limitations for garrisoning.
Okay.
So I do think it says somewhere in there.
Up to 60 models can garrison a very large terrain feature.
And that's the biggest one.
Right.
Yeah, up to 30 can garrison a large terrain feature, and up to 15 models.
And up to 15 can garrison other defensible terrain
Right.
features.
So if you had 3 separate units of 5 models apiece, they could garrison.
Yeah, multiple units can garrison a building.
Yeah. So it's just the model count that's important.
Correct. I don't think they had model counts before.
No, I don't think they did either. I don't think there were any restrictions before.
Yeah, which is good because it was always like, that's a tiny little hut. There's no
Yeah.
way 30
exactly.
boys are going to fit inside there.
I've got
gonna
this
be smelly.
outhouse. This outhouse is full of 30 yard boys.
Right. They're all like, but yet they're all still able to attack. They're all smushed up against each other.
And then again, here's the models with 10 wounds or more cannot garrison terrain features.
Right. It could be the biggest terrain feature in the world. They still can't garrison it.
Nope.
That is funny that they aren't like, okay, very large one they can garrison. It's like, nope. No garages for the cauldron
Nope.
in Age of Sigmar.
Nope.
Those
What
stay
about
out.
Smog the Dragon? He garrisoned a building.
Say what?
Smog the Dragon in The Hobbit.
Right.
He totally garrisoned a building.
Yeah. That was the point, right? They had to try and get him out.
Right.
Sigmar says, no.
There's a demolish rule here that is new. I think there might have been some specific War Scroll stuff that involves demolishing buildings. I think we're going to see more stuff that has the opportunity to demolish stuff.
Yep.
But just on a 1, if you're garrisoning a building and that building is demolished, you will die for every model in the building. On a 1, that model is slain.
Right. There's the thing with the monsters. They can go demolish faction terrain. And the Seraphon faction terrain is garrisonable. So that would apply here.
Does the KO boat that can be garrisoned, it doesn't count as a terrain feature.
It counts as, it just says you use the garrison
keyword.
Like you use the rules around a around garrisoning a terrain feature. So, which is an interesting note. I wonder if that changes. It does specify how many. It does say, hey, you've got to use the garrisoning rules, but it does specify how many models can fit in the boat. So there was always a limitation to that.
Yeah.
But they also then have additional rules that say when the ship is destroyed, it's the same as this. Everybody has to come out. They are set up within 6, 3 away from enemy units. On a 1, the model is slain.
Okay. Yeah, that's familiar.
Yep. So that's definitely how the KO have been playing. So
the next page, objectives. There were some changes here. Not right here, but as far as heroes and monsters being worth more for controlling objectives.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's really cool.
Some heroes.
It says monsters count as 5 models and heroes with a wound count of 5 or more.
Right. Oh, I think it's just any models. Each model.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
each model. I thought it said hero. Yeah, you're right.
Each monster counts as 5. Each model with a wounds characteristic of 5 or more is 2. So your cauldron counts as 2 models now.
Yeah.
So there's a boon.
Hey, thank you.
Lifting you back up, right?
There silver lining. Thank you.
You're up here now. A lot of my goblins are only 4 wounds. So
your heroes.
Yeah. So such is life. Yeah. But now that means my big spider counts as 5 models. So that's nice.
Yeah. How many wounds do trolls have?
4.
Mm.
But the Ale Guzzler Gargant, he's a monster. Now he'll count as 5.
Yep.
You just cheap monster, keep him in the back, have him set on an objective.
Yeah, I think that the Ale Guzzler is going to be really popular.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't like hike up in points. If he does, then he might go back to not being so popular. But if he kind of stays relatively like a low count or a low cost monster,
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be more valuable, which will be interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all that I really noticed with objectives. Then we get to wizards. Miscasts are back. Look at it down there in the middle.
Yes.
More 8th edition stuff. Miscasts. The unmodified casting roll of 2. On an unmodified casting roll of 2, the spell is miscast. The spell is not successfully cast. The caster suffers D3 mortal wounds, and the caster cannot attempt to cast any more spells in that hero phase.
Oh,
brutal.
Man.
Brutal. Just when wizards were looking good.
I know. You're gonna show up to that like GW, grand tournament, right? And you're gonna be like, oh, here's the gash, and it's gonna be like you roll a 2, and nope, can't do anything anymore that turn.
No, that's it. He's done. Oh, that's brutal. I can imagine like, I got my little wizard here. I just want to go cast Arcane Bolt. Trying to do 1 mortal wound to somebody. Oh, I just did 3 mortal wounds to myself.
Right. I know. Wah, wah. Yep.
Yeah.
And which to me, I love that chaos.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad they brought back miscasts.
Yeah.
So glad. I'm gonna hate it, but I'm glad they brought it back.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the changes to Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield.
Right.
Ranges for both drops to 12 inches.
Yeah.
That I don't like that. 6 inches for Arcane Bolt to lose 6 inches from its attack range. That's a pretty big nerf.
Yeah. 12 inches is a big nerf. I think the ability is cool.
The new change that if the unit is within 3 inches, the caster suffers 3 inches of the caster, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds instead of 1. Where it used to be if you rolled 10 or higher, the Arcane Bolt did
D3 within range. Yeah, it's not as powerful as it was before, but it's interesting that like if you have a beefy yeah, I guess it doesn't really change. You're right. It doesn't really change anything. For the better. It really kind of does just nerf Arcane Bolt.
Which is a shame because like Arcane Bolt was already kind of an afterthought.
It was already nerfed from like 1.0. 1.0, it was D3 automatically.
Yeah.
And then they changed it to 1. Unless you got 10 or more, then it was D3.
Yeah.
I just don't like with this change, like Nagash went up to like 975 points. And he used to be able to cast he can still cast Arcane Bolt as many times as he wants. But here it's going to be they got to be so close.
Yeah. Got to be right on top of them.
So the difference is you're casting you're not casting it on anybody yet. It's like a defensive thing, right? Like you could be a wizard like monster, right? Like Archaon or Marathi.
Sorceress on a dragon.
Yep, and cast it and then go in and fight. or just have a nice sort of defensive, like, yeah, if you decide to charge me, I'm going to choose the combat phase. You're going to take D3 more wounds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, now Nagash can kind of just like go down the line and just like cast it, right? And then, just cast it off any phase he wants or whatever if he's like right in your face. But who knows?
Yeah, and now with all the hero stuff and the monster stuff, you can like, I think they really are drawing a lot of attention to those heroes on monsters. They get a lot of new buffs.
Right. Yep. So if you're a monster and a hero and a wizard, there's going to be a lot of stuff you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Blockbuster hammer or whatever they call it.
Mystic Shield got a short range. Yeah.
With a 12-inch range.
Yeah. That's another nerf too. It was reroll once. Now it's just add one.
Right.
All right. Endless spells.
Yep.
The summoning hasn't really changed.
Right. Just the control of it really has changed.
The control, that's the big change. When it moves at the end of yes, priest can dispel them. They move at the end of every hero phase. They're controlled by the wizard who casts them, so long as that wizard is still within 30 inches.
Yep. Yep.
And then what happens?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
If it's wild, then so whoever casts it controls it.
Yeah.
And you can only control one at a time. So gone is the time of, well, not gone. I guess you never really had control of it before. So I guess really it's only like an added benefit to the wizard casting it. You can still cast, like this round I cast one spell and the next round I cast another one. What you're doing is you're giving up control of one of them.
Yeah.
But, before you didn't control any of them unless you went second. So I think it's good. It kind of
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes the endless spells really attractive to bring back.
Priests, they're gonna.
Priests.
Yeah, man, they're like we mentioned before. They're gonna be the big boys of this edition too.
Yeah, they got lots of cool stuff.
Universal chants. The bless and the smite that everybody knows. Kind of like
and they can,
and
like we said, and like you said, they dispel. They can dispel an endless spell, and they can unbind or not unbind, but remove other invocations.
Correct, which is nice.
Yeah.
Playing against those corn guys, and they've, or Daughters of Cain, they throw out those invocations, and it's like nothing you could do.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. Bless. Bless is a prayer with an answer value of 4 and a range of 12 inches. If answered, pick one friendly unit wholly within range and visible to the chanter. Until the start of your next hero phase, that unit has a ward save of 6+. It's nice.
Yeah.
And Smite is a prayer that has an answer value of 2 and a range of 48 inches. If answered, pick one enemy priest within range and visible to the chanter. That enemy priest suffers 1 mortal wound. If the chanting roll was 6 or more, the enemy priest suffers D3 mortal wounds. So Battle of the Priests.
Right. That's like Priest Arcane Bolt.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love the thought of these priest battles happening out there. Priests trying to nuke each other.
Right. Like all of a sudden, 48-inch range pops out. Like,
yeah, after all this, everything getting shorter. Arcane Bolt shorter, Mystic Shield shorter. 48-inch attack.
Right.
Does it have to have line of sight? Visible to them, yeah. So they still have to be visible, but
okay.
48 inches.
So we already talked about them and dispelling and banishing.
One thing I saw, and I don't know if this is true for all wizards, that on the priest's prayers, that a 1 will always cause a mortal wound when a priest prays.
Oh, if they fail on a 1, it causes a mortal wound. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is different. Like sometimes some of them would do that, I think, right? Like Daughters of Cain.
Daughters of Cain did.
Yeah, but the Rune Lords never did.
The Rune Lords never did?
No.
That's interesting. Because I think with Mark's Corn guys, I think they took a wound on a 1 or a 2.
Yeah. And
hopefully that's going away.
The 1 or 2?
Yeah, the 1 or, like, they should get the same treatment everybody else does. I would hate to have them. I know he's got a lot of priests to choose from.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem balanced to me that, all the other priests fail on a 1 and suffer a mortal wound on a 1, but his guys fail on a 3 and suffer a mortal wound on a 2, something like whatever it is.
Well, I think it's because if they're within like a certain distance of like their terrain feature or something, I can't remember what it is, they get to re-roll the prayer.
Ah, okay.
Which is pretty unique. Like not a lot of people get to roll prayers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe that's why. Because it's like if you roll a 1 or a 2 and then you roll a 1 or a 2 again, like shame on you.
You do not have Corn's favor.
Pray harder.
So the next section, monsters.
Arr.
Yeah, so you can carry out 1 monstrous rampage.
Yep.
Some neat stuff. Roar, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of this model and roll a dice on a 3-up. That unit cannot issue or receive commands in the following combat phase. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Stomp, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of this model that is not a monster and roll a dice on a 2-up. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. You can just do that. I know I'm charging my monster in, and this is Stomp in addition to any other impact hits that they might already be doing.
Right.
Pretty cool. Titanic Duel, pick 1 enemy monster within 3 inches of this model. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this model that target that enemy monster until the end of the following combat phase. Nice. But Smash to Rubble is the one you were referencing before. Pick 1 faction terrain feature or defensible terrain feature within 3 inches of this model. Roll a dice. On a 3-up, that terrain feature is demolished. If it was defensible and the scenery rules on its war scroll cannot be used for the rest of the battle, if it was a faction terrain feature. Pretty cool. Nice to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, just think of a Mega Gargant. They've already got a Stomp, right? But what if you gave him the artifact that makes him a wizard? That we'll see before, like one of the universal enhancements. So now they're a wizard. Now they can cast Arcane Bolt. And so they cast Arcane Bolt. They charge. They're going to do maybe... because they'll be within 3 inches. So you wait till the combat. So at the end of your charge, you stomp. You crash. Beginning of the combat phase, Arcane Bolt goes off. So it's just like D3, D3, D3. Like that could stack up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of damage that monsters can do now. So like you were saying about maybe that Hail Guzzler is going to go up in points, I'm betting all monsters are going to go up a couple points.
Yeah.
So the next section talks about War Scroll cards. No real changes there as to what, how War Scroll card is made up.
Right.
Description. They do specifically talk about command models, which I don't think was in previous descriptions, where they talk about champions, standard bearers, and musicians. So I think you're guessing correctly. I think they are going to come back as each one of those is 5 points.
Okay.
I think you're right. I think you nailed it. Skipping a few pages ahead, not too much about battlefield roles. Battalion abilities. One of the things I saw was one drop deployment. That's on the end of page 32. I think it's an important change here.
Oh, the reinforced thing. Where were you at?
Oh, I'm looking at page 32, one drop deployment. Reinforced, you're right. I skipped that one.
Real quick.
What page is that on?
That's back up to 30. The reinforced units is the big thing there for the army unit, the unit size. So if you've got a unit that's not battle line, they can only be reinforced once, which means you double their minimum size. So if let's say I take the Demigriff Knights, right? Their minimum size is 3. If I add another 3, I've reinforced them once. Unless they're battle line, I can't reinforce them a third time. So, which means we're going to, without them changing the minimum size, if they don't change the minimum size, which I don't see them changing the minimum size, because once you do, then the max number that you can get out there is a lot, right? So witches, they're going to stay min size 12, right? I mean 10.
Right. 10, yeah.
No, I said 12. Min size 10, because battle line you can get them up to 30, but there's going to be no way to get your battle line guys that had max sizes of 40 up to 40 anymore.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But it seems like a shame, particularly if you're talking about skeletons and those kind of things. It was nice to see, or zombies, just giant blocks of zombies coming at you.
Well, they did change it for the Soulblight Gravelord's book that skeletons are max size 30.
Yeah.
They do have it that zombies are max size 40. So I don't know if they're going to change them to be a min size 20.
Yeah, what's their minimum unit size?
10.
Yeah, it's 10. Yeah.
So I'm not sure why they did that. But who knows?
Maybe because of the smaller table.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
Smaller table, they don't want. But so the Grots at min size 20 can still go up to 60. But I don't see them min size going down to 10.
Yeah.
Unless they get super cheap.
Yeah.
But anyway. Interesting little change.
Yeah, it is. Good call. So War Scroll battalions.
Right. Big change here.
Yeah. I don't like them using icons. I wish they would just use words.
Huh.
Do you know what I mean? I guess maybe they want to graphically for some reason. They're used to the shorthand. I know this is something they do in 40K pretty regularly, right?
Yeah. You always have to have a legend that tells you what it is. And with almost the same amount of space they tell you what the legend is. The legend, it's like you could have just put the word.
Just put the word. I don't need the legend. Your fancy silhouettes, I don't need them.
Well, because they already did it with the War Scroll battalions. They just had that little organization box, right? And they just told you what it was.
Yeah.
Now they've got like fancy pictures to help people. But then people were like, wait, so like, do I have to have like a mounted hero to be a general? And it's like, no.
No.
Like, that first icon is just to mean like your leader, like your general.
And I'm going to look at that. I'm going to go, what does that mean again? And I'm going to have to go back and look it up. And they could have just wrote it. They could have just wrote it down.
Huh. Yeah. So
the new core battalions seem pretty cool. The one thing that stood out to me about one drop deployment.
Yeah.
The core battalion has the unified icon, a unit from the battalion. Then after you set up a unit from the battalion, you must set up all of the other units from the battalion. I know that with Daughters of Cain, I would kind of trickle them out. So I kind of knew what my opponent was doing with the War Scroll battalions.
Right.
I would just do a couple at a time. And like, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the rest of the battalion after
You
I've
have to
already
do it all
trickled
at
out.
once.
Yeah, you have to do it all at once. You can't split it up. You have to do it all.
Yeah. So what I've heard is like this battle regiment is going to become like the golden one.
Yeah.
Because it's unified, so it's one drop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's going to want to decide to go second because they get more command points and they get them at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Most people. So then they're all going to want to be one drop so they can choose that. And this you can fit quite a bit in here. Just because you have this doesn't mean like, that they have to be infantry style units, right? It just is units. This is just like these guys here in the middle are just right. They're just units that are not leaders, artillery, or behemoths. So most stuff is going to fit inside here, and then you're either going to just take one or two of the next, or some people are saying you're then going to take the command entourage because you're going to need maybe a couple more heroes. Because that ability there is, they're saying, is nice to be able to have one of those two, the Magnificent, which is an extra enhancement. So if you want that, like, hey, I took a battalion that gives me an extra artifact, then you're going to want to take this one. Or this one, but then you're battle regiment plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So your minimum 5 drops, right?
Yeah.
Or is this one your minimum 1? So yeah, you're right. It's interesting because it shakes it up.
Yeah, it does.
Some people are saying that as new books release, or maybe when they FAQ, they're going to give out like army specific ones. But again, I feel like that takes us back to the problem we were at before, where you just had some armies with really good core battalion, or really good War Scroll battalions, and armies that just had shitty ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what we'll do.
Yeah, I like to see it when people play with them, what kind of combos people find.
Right. And the important thing to note is that when you do, like, some of the army compositions will say, like, if you take this allegiance, sub-allegiance, like, these behemoths become battle line and no longer count as behemoths, then they won't satisfy this position.
Gotcha. Oh, that's neat.
Like the cities have that with the tanks.
Yeah.
And if you take the tanks and you take the commander in a tank, the steam tank, they become battle line, and they're not behemoths. So they would take up these slots. And the commander would take up, this one. And then they would take up whatever. So
yeah.
It's just interesting to see how that changes,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think with the one drop deployment is going to be the popular one.
Yeah. And then enhancements. The universal enhancements towards the back.
Yep.
Just so cool.
Yeah.
This is back too. This is 8th edition again stuff too.
Right. It is. It's back to like customization and being able to choose, like, slightly modifying things.
Yeah, like subtle little tweaks that make your army completely unique. and giving inspiration for like creative building. Maybe I know I want to take the arcane tome on my hero, so I cut off the shield and put a book in his hand instead.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite artifact to take.
Right. Like I was saying, that Mega Gargant, like take out the club and give him like a really giant wand.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. This one is going to be popular here, I think. The Amulet of Destiny. The bear has a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
I think that's just, a pretty easy one to go like, that's an easy choice because anyone can use a 5-up ward, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to want to keep your general around. Like, you're going to want to make sure your general stays alive now because it's just like a CP factory,
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, because I can see that in like cities taking that on like any one of the heroes that I have there could definitely take a 5-up ward.
Oh yeah.
Huge for the Hurricanum to have a 5-up ward, or for like my Rune Lord to have a 5-up ward. Like that's important.
Yeah, it is.
Or for KO, who have no after saves, like no ward saves.
The whole army with no ward saves. Well, yeah, we're calling them ward saves again. Yeah, I'm still happy about that.
Yeah. So that'll be nice.
So the last thing I have a question on is this. Before you wage war in a game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you must select a battle pack. This is under the section Battle Packs, 28.0.
Okay.
So I'm assuming a battle pack is a combination of a battle plan and a realm of battle. Is what I think the battle pack is, but they don't give an example of a battle pack, which I wish they did.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we find in the GHB or in the core book itself.
Yes, which I'm excited about. I like where this is headed. It sounds like, I think it's going to make the battle plans more flavorful.
Yeah.
Instead of where we used to pick a realm, and this is my guess, we used to pick a realm and a battle plan. Now you would just pick a battle pack that is a realm and a battle plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my guess. I'm looking forward to seeing it in person.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a fun system. I don't think there's like, I think we can kind of like, it'll be easy to implement the changes. But I think it'll be a refreshing game.
Yeah. I don't think it needed a refresh, but
you're right.
I think there is, like, just because it wasn't broken doesn't mean it couldn't use some fixing up and some dusting off.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. You're right. 2.0 wasn't, I don't think it was a bad game.
No, not at all.
But you're right. This definitely is exciting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's some really fun stuff here. That's going to be fun to try out, all the different combos.
Yeah.
Which endless spells do I like with which of the new battalions, and which monster is the best one to get these monster features, what hero is best to get these heroic traits. Like, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
So, yeah, so you're in a hobby freeze.
I am in a hobby freeze, unfortunately, but yes.
So like, so what's next for you?
What's next for me?
Yeah, like
Well-
you just to learn the rules and just play and hope you don't roll a 1 on
on publisher. My publisher doesn't roll a 1 on me.
right.
Um, I guess right now I think I'm going to take the time to kind of clean the hobby room, clean the hobby desk, mentally get ready for the new edition, kind of do inventory on the stuff I have. This seems like a time to do all those things and just get ready, physically and mentally ready for AOS 3.0.
Yeah.
Which goes, this is Wednesday that we're recording, and it goes on sale this coming Saturday, pre-order this coming Saturday.
Okay. But it's not going to be in your hands available for like 2 weeks, I think, right?
Yeah, is that right?
I think so. It's like July 4th week and
Okay.
whatever.
Gotcha.
Maybe July 3rd, I want to say.
Yeah, sounds
Is-
right.
something like that. Yeah, is when you can actually have it in hand. Yeah. Yep. So July 3rd would be the Saturday. So I think that's when it goes. I think that's when you can actually go pick it up from the store.
Awesome.
And I think the GHB and the core book will be available right away. Does that mean they're going to have like our FAQs for each army ready to go at that time as well? Or
I hope so, but probably not. Probably another couple weeks for that.
a couple weeks of like
mid-July, early August.
Yeah. Because they usually come out with the something, and then 2 or 3 weeks after that, they come out with an FAQ for it. So yeah, maybe that's when they'll release all the army specific FAQs. All right. Yeah, I'm just working on my gits, my glitz army, and I think I'm just gonna keep working on them because I don't think I don't think they'll go down anymore. I think they'll only get better in this new edition. So, and I got some fun models that I've never played with before. And there's like this little unit. They're called the Gaba Palooza.
Oh yeah.
And they're like these really fun models. This guy on like a walking mushroom. And there's this, this like 6-legged dude, and he's like carrying a bunch of bottles of stuff. There's like this guy dancing on like a squig.
It's a really cool looking squig too. It's skeletal.
Yeah, like a skeleton. It's like one goblin holding a squig skeleton, and then another goblin like on top of him dancing. And then there's 2 more, just kind of like, goblin
gobos.
So they're not heroes, but they have like on their war scroll the benefits of a hero, like kind of like a lookout sir, which is like a -1 to hit, and a plus to save on the first battle round. So you try and keep you from sniping them off the table. But 3 of the 5 are wizards. So
that's cool.
They're not heroes, but they're wizards. So they're going to get extra, they're going to get, the ability to, to cast and have fun.
Do they count as they're a named unit, so you can't give them enhancements, right?
Correct. And they're not heroes.
Right.
So I can't give them like an artifact or anything.
Yeah.
But just with the focus on like casting and controlling endless spells and stuff like that, I think it'll be good to have extra wizards out there.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
If anything,
that's great.
They'll look like really cool models. Like I really like the sculpts, and I really liked them when they first came out, but they're just like hard to use because they're like, I don't know. Anyway, they're just like really specific in what they do. They're not just like the fungoid, which is like, hey, of course you want a 4-up extra command point, 4-up field no pain. He's a wizard. He can cast. He's a hero. He's like an auto include in any Auric or Gitz army. So Whereas these guys aren't necessarily auto include. But yeah. Anyway, that's my project.
Yeah. Awesome. So
Cool. Well, we should meet up this weekend.
Yeah.
We should try out some 3.0. Play
Yeah,
as much as we can with what we have. And who knows? Maybe we'll record something on video.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Look for our video to come.
Yes.
All right. So what do you say when you're ready to play AOS 3? 1, 2, 3. Whoa!